Good evening, everybody. If I could just have your attention, please. As you can see, Gary is running around like a headless chicken there trying to sort things out. If we can all get your attention, Gary will be signing more books as soon as they're finished. He's going to have something to say in a few minutes with one or two people to say. I'm Niall Boylan from Classic Hits 4FM. The reason that Gary asked me to be here tonight and to do this for him tonight is because Gary changed my opinion of people. I didn't meet Gary. This is actually the very first time I've ever met him. But I spoke to Gary for the first time about 2 years ago on the daytime show, and we were talking about drugs, or we were talking about alcohol or addictions or something. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Stuff we talk about on the show.
Yeah, the usual stuff we talk about on the show. But Gary rang in just as a caller that particular day, and I had a predefined idea of what people can be like. Because when you're working on a talk show, you have stereotypical ideas of different people. We put people into boxes all the time. And I suppose typically, like a lot of people, we put people into boxes of being alcoholics, junkies, whatever they are, criminals. And that's the way we define people on radio, I suppose, in some way when you're doing interviews. But Gary changed my whole view of how people can be and how people can change. Because sometimes when you see somebody's a criminal or an alcoholic or a drug addict, we tend to write them off. And we tend to think, well, that's the rest of their lives, that's their future. But when Gary came on the air and told his story, and then he started blubbering for a little while. And I remember as he was telling the story, he was working. He was painting somewhere, because he was painting and decorating at the time. But he started crying. And probably for the first time on the air, when I was talking to somebody, I was almost in tears listening to the fella too. And I said, here's a fella that I probably would have had a predefined notion of what he was going to be like, what his future was going to be like. But I was wrong. It was a man who had been through everything. Been through the toughest challenges in his life. Wanted to make his mother so proud, Lily, who's here tonight. Wanted to make her proud and wanted to show her what a good lad he really was. Unfortunately, took the wrong path in life and ended up in a bad place, but wanted to turn his life around and managed to do it. And against all the odds, he was back out, he was working, he had met Antoinette, who supported him through all this and helped him through all this, and he completely and utterly changed his life. And what he did is, not only did he tell me that, but to the listeners who are listening, and maybe some people who are out there who are listening with addictions and problems, he showed them that they might be thinking there's no light at the end of the tunnel and they're destined for a life of drugs or a life of drink or a life of prison. But there actually is light at the end of the tunnel and you can change the direction of your life. And that's thanks to Gary. And I think he's inspired and touched a lot of people with his story. And we've had him on the radio so many times ever since. We kind of wheel him on every now and again when we need to inspire people. So I want to thank him too, because he's been great to us on the radio too, and he's always helped to boost up the topics for us and to get the listeners in too, because they love listening to his story. So I want to thank you too, Gary, for just doing that for us as well. Now we will be doing more signings, because I know the queue is getting quite long and the person at the end felt like they were doing time. So he will be signing more of those books as well. But from those very first days when Gary ended up in Mountjoy prison, and I'm sure you all know the quote from the book, when he said, "Thank you very much, you sanctimonious prick," to the judge who gave him the time in prison. One man that kind of looked after him, in some sense, is Brian Murphy, who is the governor of Mountjoy prison. So I want to welcome Brian Murphy to the stage.
First of all, I want to say I'm delighted and honoured to be asked by Gary here tonight to launch his book. I suppose, like, I knew Gary from the 27th of March 12 to the 10th of the 11th, 14.
I knew it was for a while, yeah.
But, you know, I mean, always, any time I met him up in Loughlin and that, and even down in IPS headquarters, and even in Mountjoy in the latter few months, he's always been somebody that has persuaded and influenced me to go along with him, you know. But he just has that energetic character, and I think that I was talking to one of the teachers here tonight from Mountjoy, that comes out in the book. You can actually feel it in the book. His personality comes out in the book, and it's a great story and a great read. And I haven't read it fully yet, so I won't, you know, just maybe...
Wait till you get to the bit with you.
I was going to say that, Gary. There may be some inaccuracies in there. and language used that I wouldn't normally use. But I suppose there's one quote in the book that you mentioned at the very start, and it's a good sort of quote in the prison setting that prisoners usually say. And it's not the time that you do, it's what you do with the time. Now, Gary is the the personification of that you know, he has changed his life around from his time in prison. And I think he set out from the very start, after you were committed and after you said that about the judge, which you shouldn't have, you did set about changing your life and turning things around. And you did it, and not only did you do it for yourself, but you did it for other prisoners up there in Cunningham who saw you as a leader, and you did take on that role, that peer leader role in Cunningham. And I know the governor from Cunningham at the time, Governor Gavin and Chief Carrick are here tonight. And also, Gary said to me when I came in, I just make this point, he said, God, I'm gobsmacked by all the people, but I'm actually gobsmacked by all the education people that are here tonight from Mountjoy and Knockin. Our Director General, Michael Donald's coming along to offer his support. And all the other prison staff in Mountjoy that are here tonight, and Lockin as well. So it's just phenomenal. But you've made a difference to their lives, Gary, as well. That it's a very positive story. And I suppose, you know, it does, like this book launch here tonight will mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people. And I'm sure your family are very proud of you, what you've achieved. I'm sure you yourself are, you know, be able to put your experience into words and, again, influence people and tell people about it on the radio and all. It's just fantastic, and I understand you're going on TV tomorrow night, so I wish you well there. But I suppose for me, as an IPS, Director of Operations originally, and then moving into the Governor role in Mountjoy,